Okay, we are now on lesson 3, finding percentages of amounts. Last lesson we looked at finding certain percentages like 50%, 10% and 1%. Now we're going to look at finding multiples of 10%. So for example, if you're asked to find 20% of £80, now, for today's lesson, for every question, the first thing you do is find 10%. Now, remember from last lesson, to find 10%, we divide by 10. So 10% will be 8. Divide 80 by 10. Now, if I've got 10%, then I can find 20%. Because 20% is just double 10%. So I'm just going to double 8 to get 16. So my answer will be £16 because 20% is 10% twice. Okay, so let's think about how we would find 30% of a number. Please write these examples in your books as you're going along. So to find 30% of a number, again, I find 10% and I want 10% 3 times. Okay, so 10% of 200 will be 20. Divide by 10. Remember, 10%, key fact, to find 10%, I divide by 10. That's your key fact, yeah, from last lesson. So what would 30% be? Well, 10% times 3, 10% 3 times is 30%. So I times 20 by 3 to get 60. Okay, so let's think about this next example. How would I find 60% of a number? Well, I always find 10% first. To find 10%, I divide by 10. And I want 60%, so how many lots of 10 do I need? Well, 10 times 6 is 60, so I times 3 by 6 to get 18. So for each of these examples, I found 10% first, and then multiplied by how many 10s I wanted. Okay, so you're going to pause the video now and have a go at doing each of these questions, please. And remember, the key fact here is find 10% first, and the key fact to find 10%, you divide by 10. Okay, so well done, you've had a good go at that. Let's go through the answers. Well, 10% of 50 is 5. 50 divided by 10 is 5. Right, 20%, well, I've got 10% and I just want 2 lots of 10% now. So 2 lots of 5, 2 times 5 is 10. Right, to find 30% of 50, well, I want 10% 3 times. So I want 10% 3 times. So I get £15. Okay, to get 60% of 50, well, I've got 10% is 5, and I want 60%, so I want 6 lots of 5, which is 30. Okay, so that was all to do with £50. So I got my 10%, and I looked at how many 10% went into each of these. I times by 2, times by 3, times by 6. Okay, this one, if we go to question 5 now, to find 40%, well, I've got to find 10% first. I haven't found 10% yet. So 10% of 80 is 8, divide by 10. So 40%, I want 4 lots of 10. So I times by 4, and I get £32. Okay, to find 70%, well, I know 10% of 60 is 6, so 70% will be 7 lots of 6, which is £42. Okay, so well done on finding 10% of amounts. Excellent work. Okay, so the next part. I'm going to look at now at filling in this kind of spider diagram, kind of like a brainstorm. You can just listen to this one. So, I've got £400 in the middle and I want to find each of these percentages. So, 10% of 400 is 40. How do I find 10%? I divide by 10. 400 divided by 10 is 40. Okay, now I've got 10%, I can find 20%. I'm just going to double 40. Okay, to get 30%, I've got 10%, so 10% is 40, and I want 3 lots of 10%, so I get 120. Okay, I could have also, if you notice, 10% and 20% makes 30%. So 40 add 80 is 120. So think how you would find 60%. Well, there's loads of ways I could do this. I'm going to show you 2 of the ways. Well, one way is I know 10% is 40 and I want 6 lots of them. So I get 240. Or 30% doubled is 60%. So 120 doubled is 240. Okay, and the last one, 90%. I've got 10% is 40. I want 90%. So 40 times 9 is 360. I can also see actually, if I know 10%, which is 40, and I take it away from my original, which is 100%, okay? So 400 take away 40, 100% take away 10%, 400 take away 40 is 360. There's lots of different ways of doing this. Right, you're going to have a go now. Okay, you're going to draw this into your books. You're going to have a go at filling in the blanks, please. So pause the video, try this one, and I'll go through the answers. Okay, well done, a good go at this. So 10% divide by 10. 20% double 10%. 30%, I could add 10 and 20 to get 24. 50%, I know 50% is a half of 80, is 40. 70%, well, I've got 10%, 7 times. So 8 times 7, 10%, 7 times, 56. 90%, well, I could just do 10% away from 100%, so 8 away from 80 is 72. Or I could just do 70% add 20% will give me 90%, so 56 add 16 will give me 72. Or 10%, 8 times 9, 8 nines are 72. Lots of different ways to find these answers. So here is your learning check now, which you're going to write into your books and send me a lovely picture of. So draw this, fill in the blanks, and that is the end of your lesson.